And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this wonderful Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. Temperatures outside in the 70s, and that's after starting the morning. Very refreshing in the 40s this morning across much of the area. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, I don't know about you, but it was nice to leave the windows open overnight for a change and get a little free air conditioning from Mother Nature.
Frankly, I went outside on the porch to have lunch today, and when you have a day that's only 75 degrees at noon, you actually aren't sure what to do with yourself.
Right? Especially this time of the year, and as
Yeah.
end of July, and knowing what's coming up around the corner, because we do have some of the hottest air of the season. That's going to be heading our way. Now, with that being said, we're not looking at any records. Records over the weekend are between 103 and 105. We're not going to get that hot, but we won't be that far away from it. Now, today, probably a top 10 day. We've got, there's still a little bit of a upper level smoke in the air, but other than that, we're looking at a lot of sunshine and temperatures just a touch below normal this afternoon, low 80s. And winds out of the west-southwest about 5 to 15. A real nice day out there. And tonight, clear skies, not as chilly, with lows near 60 and winds out of the south about 5 to 10. And then the winds ramp up a little bit for Thursday and Friday. Looking at breezy conditions out of the west-southwest with highs in the upper 80s Thursday, low 90s Friday. Now, there will be even hotter weather moving our way Friday night into Saturday. And on the cusp of that heat dome, we could see an isolated storm or two Friday overnight. And then the hot air settles in for Saturday, Sunday, with highs in the upper 90s. And we're staying in the 80s and 90s all next week. And the only next chance of rain coming in towards the end of next week. So 2 chances of rain in the next 10 days, and they don't even look that great. So I wish I had better news in terms of these drought conditions expanding over the next 10 days. But I don't see much relief until that possibly that first week in August. So it's going to be a while before we... Now, those areas that do get caught under a few of these storms Friday night, you could pick up a quick half-inch of rain if you're lucky. But other than that, that's going to be very, very hit and miss, it looks like.
You know, for those who are out looking at their crop, and right now, Addison has our Lighthouse Commodities live stream facing outside towards I-29. You can even see in the ditches the dry where they're mowed, etc. We're not really fighting a lot of cattail mowing. In fact, you can do some areas right now that you haven't been able to get into in a while. But on top of that, if you are looking at what your corn is doing, especially if you are in, say, some hilltop areas, maybe some lower organic matter or poor soil conditions, you definitely have some corn that's showing signs of drought stress. We know that overall our crop, especially in this east central part of the Red River Valley, is going to have some concerns when it comes to yield. We don't know what they look like yet, but we're going to see. And we've had some high heat at very critical plant development times that are going to impact us on yield as we get later through the season. If you're curious about what that could look like, or if you also would like to share what you're seeing in your neighborhood, I'd be happy to take those calls. You can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Send emails, ag@flagfamily.com or weather@flagfamily.com. And then, of course, make sure that you are checking out what's happening, again, as I mentioned, on our Lighthouse Commodities live stream, which is on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Acres TV. Big things to do today. It's Wednesday weather trivia, so we don't want to skip that. And speaking of weather, so often when we hit these hot stretches in the month of July or August, folks often refer back to what it was like during, the heat waves of the dirty 30s. Well, not a lot of us were here, but records do show that during those time frames, we saw some pretty consistent weather extremes. And back in 1935, and this would have been about the first part of July, they saw temperatures in Chicago hit 139 degrees and 104 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That drought that constitutes the dirty 30s actually came in waves, 1934, 36, and then 39 to 40. But there were regions of the high plains, so if you think about Kansas, Oklahoma, they experienced drought conditions for as many as 8 different years. And that whole drought situation impacted over 100 million acres, tens of thousands of poverty-stricken families. All of this really stemmed from some governmental acts that started happening back in 1904, 1909, and just led to some pretty overproduction that we were trying to plow fence row, and we weren't using any conservation practices. And then we coupled that with drought. The three longest drought episodes in modern U.S. history have each covered at least 60% of the lower 48 states at their peak and have lasted 99 months or longer. There was severe drought in the 30s, the 50s, and again, there was a fairly severe drought in 2012. So we tend to forget it wasn't just that one time frame. Back in the 50s, 50s drought was a continuation of what started in the 1940s in the southwest of the United States, and then that moved through the Central Plains, the Midwest, and certain Rocky Mountain states from 53 to 57. So it's interesting to note what those changes looks like, and when you do some comparisons of this year to last year on the drought monitor, et cetera. So I've got some great graphics here that we might be able to put into the live stream, as well as we can talk about what's been going on in drought situations just over the years. A little bit of fun fact history for you, if you will.
And I think everybody, Bridget, they always look to the dirty 30s as the biggest drought times that we had. I mean, hopefully we never have to repeat anything like that again. The Dust Bowl years. Oh.
Well, we would like to do that, but or we would like to not do that. Excuse me. But we have better practices. We have better plans. Our weather continues to change, so we'll just see what things look like. Mother Nature's always going to win. Doesn't matter what the rest of us think.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So that's just a few of the things that we can talk about today. Additionally, let's talk about alternative fuels in tractors. One of them is that um, New Holland has come out with, they've got a smaller size horsepower. So the T6 is about 180 horsepower, and they've brought it out to be able to use methane. And they can do that with about 3 different uh, versions, if you will, of methane. So the first is they can be doing it with biomethane. Let's say you have a methane digester on a dairy or hog operation, and you're able to take methane directly out of that digester. Then you have renewable natural gas, which that comes from industrial biodigesters or other sources. Then you also could look at traditional compressed natural gas. Maybe you're using it already on your operation for heat. And these tractors are now being used in a number of areas. One, the research center in eastern Nebraska is using it, and they're comparing horsepower, efficiency of hours, etc. Also, the Lincoln Airport is using one for mowing to try to see if that's a cost savings for them versus what you do with traditional diesel running tractors. There's just a real interest in different energy sources as we look at the fact that oil consumption hasn't gone down, and with things like the Strait of Hormuz has really highlighted how we have these probably 6 different bottlenecks around the world that could truthfully impact us in a lot of ways when it comes to diesel fuel farming, etc. And so we're seeing more and more ideas and things that are happening and changing for us in order to bring new technologies to the farm. And the methane tractor from New Holland is just one of those. So wanted to share those things with you. We'll have more to share throughout the hour. And of course, we'll talk about the weather, some headlines, and play Wednesday weather trivia with you as our listeners. We'll do that after we get the livestock market update from the American Ag Network. Well, mark your calendars. I always have a list of things for you to be paying close attention to. One of them is definitely going to be next week, Tuesday, when I am part of the Save Our Summer blood drive. We have folks that are, especially Vitalent, is facing a critical shortage of type O blood, which means that as a universal donor, we need you the most. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this will be at West Acres from 11:30 to 6 p.m. You can stop by to donate blood. This is the Save Our Summer blood drive. I'll be there on Tuesday, and it would be great if you could stop by and donate blood. I plan to as well. I'm as a regular blood donor. Unfortunately, not type O, but I think they're still going to take what I have to give, and that would be just fine as well. And speaking of things next week, next Thursday, that's going to be on July 30th, we're running an auction right here on WDAY. Jay Thomas, our own Dean Wysocki, Janae White, and Steve Hellstrom, they're going to be streaming on Facebook as well as YouTube, and they'll be simulcasting here on the radio. You've got guitars, gym memberships, power tools, tires, Red Hawk Sweets, beef, greenhouses, and dinner for 8 at ZD's plus more during that live auction that's next Thursday, July 30th from 2 to 4 on WDAY. Those are just a few things that we've got going on coming up in the next couple of weeks. Most recently, we were able to celebrate America's 250. And part of that celebration is remembering some of the things that happened within the bicentennial years, and especially in 1976. During that time, Case brought out a tractor, and Addison, I didn't get a picture of this, but if you can Google it for me, it is the Case Spirit of 76 tractor, and it came out in that particular year. It has its traditional white cab, orange tire hubs, but then it's got stripes on the hood, red and white, and then it's got a blue field with a white star on it. So it kind of looks like a flag on the front end of that tractor coming at you. And it was an impressive machine. There were only, there it is, you've got it up on the screen from Case. There were only about 200 of them done in that particular color scheme, and they were really a highlight throughout that bicentennial year. The Lesmeister Farm near Eagle Butte, South Dakota, has theirs today. In fact, current farmer Orrin, his dad happened to be sitting at the dealership office in Gettysburg, South Dakota, saw the tractor arrive on a trailer being unloaded, stayed for several hours, negotiated until he bought the tractor with the duals, the front end weights, and a small loader to bring it home. That tractor is still on their farm today. You can see it if you're driving along Highway 212 near Eagle Butte. They set it out at times like this for people to see it when it's not busy moving around some hay. She's a beaut. Clark, the Spirit of 76 tractor. It's pretty cool. Also, that we can put. Oh, go ahead, Dean.
No, I was gonna say, no, go. I'll let you go, and then I'll pipe in here in a bit.
Oh, I was just going to mention to Addison that I also put into our messaging a graphic that shows the Dust Bowl impact on over 100 million acres, as we mentioned in the earlier segment. And he can pop that in for folks watching the Lighthouse Commodity live stream. And it will show you the impact area of where the Dirty 30s, the heaviest drought years, really occurred. And it truly was in the northwest corner of the Texas Panhandle, across the Oklahoma Panhandle, down into the matching corners of Kansas and Colorado. So we can show that to those who are listening and watching at the same time.
That's a vast area, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. Covered quite a lot of acres, you might say. So, yeah.
So, well, let's throw in weather trivia right now. And again, this is your chance to win the Darter Plastic Bait Up Cup. If you're a fisherman, you're going to love this. And today's weather trivia question, and I'll give you a leeway of 1 or 2% on this. Since the start of June, we have been 3.5 inches below normal when it comes to rainfall. So we could really use some rainfall. And what about temperature-wise? What percentage of days have we been above or below normal? Since June 1st through yesterday, have the majority of days been above or below normal, and by what percentage? What percentage? 701-293-9000 for your chance to win a Darter Plastic Bait Up Cup. Again, we've been below normal on precip, 3.5 inches below normal. Temperature-wise, what percentage of the days have we been either above or below normal? I'll give you a percentage or two either way if you can dig that up. 701-293-9000. We all have short-term memory. So when you see it's going to be hot, you're thinking, you know what? It has been a hot summer. Or if you're in a cool stretch for a while, you're thinking, man, it's been a chilly summer. So it'll be interesting to see. Do you have any idea, Bridgette?
I don't know if I want to guess. I just am glad to not be sweating today. That's really all I care about at this point.
It is a beautiful day out there today, no doubt about it. And like I said, I would put this in probably one of the top 10 days of the year because we have low humidity, wind's not that bad, a lot of sunshine, just really a beautiful day. Hopefully you can get out and enjoy it, golf, hit the trails, even it's still a good pool day, even though it's not super hot. It's still a pretty decent day. So again, the weather trivia for today, since June 1st, what percentage of days have been either above or below normal? In other words, have we had a warmer than normal summer so far or a cooler than normal summer so far? We had a caller on line one. Did you get that, Addison, or did they just hang up? They just hung up. Okay. I guess
by this weekend, when it gets to be the hottest surface of the sun, good luck. And I realize that many folks will take advantage of the earlier part of the day, and you'll probably head to the Town Square Farmers Market in Grand Forks. If you do, from 9 to 1, Common Ground North Dakota has their Not a Latte summer event series. It's open to the public. They want to engage with you in a very fun and casual way, and they will have iced lattes available while we talk farming, agriculture, and all sorts of aspects of it. So again, that will be at the Farmers Market in Grand Forks this Saturday morning as well. So join folks there.
Yeah, a lot going on this weekend. Well, it's that time of the year too. It's that summertime. All right, we got a caller on line one here. Let's get that caller. Caller, what's your name?
Guess who? Kevin.
Kevin, hey, how's it going? So what's your guess? Has it been a warmer than normal or cooler than normal summer, and what percentage?
Oh, geez. You're really doing this on me, aren't you?
This is a tough one.
30 to 35% below normal and 60 to 70% above normal since June. So it's a mixed bag.
It is. So you're saying 60 to 70% above normal?
For June, yeah.
No, I'm both. June and July combined. So since June 1st.
Above normal?
Yeah, are you saying?
We ain't even close to that. Then we're going to have to do 40% across the board. It's too rough of a question.
Okay, 40% below normal or 40% above normal?
Oh, you're kidding me. 30 to 35% below normal. There, that's my final answer.
Okay, you're very close. You're close. We're nitpicking because I said you got to be within a couple percentage points, but I'll tell you you're close. How's that? Kevin,
yeah, that works.
I can't give it to you, Kevin, but you can. I mean, there's an easy way to find this out. There's an easy way to find it. It doesn't take a little research, but so he said 30 to 35% below normal. So you're going about 70% above normal. So he's in the ballpark. He's in the ballpark. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, okay, as we continue to let folks do their research, sort out Dean's Wednesday weather trivia question brought to us by Darter Plastics with their Darter Plastic Bait Up. A couple of highlights. May's beef exports were led by growth in Taiwan, Japan, and Latin America. So if you're wondering who's buying beef externally from the U.S., those are some of the countries that are keeping an eye on it. Beef exports were 10% below last year's pace, but yet we're seeing kind of an uptick, which is nice in the fact that right now we know that in the U.S. it's almost like there's some consumer fatigue on beef. We are starting to see that trend edging more towards chicken and poultry being purchased at the meat counter these days. Lamb exports have continued downward. In fact, they're down 41% from a year ago, which is a unfortunate slip over what has been a very strong lamb demand across the globe. And our pork exports to Japan, Colombia, and Central America have truly offset some lower totals that were going into Mexico. Mexico reduced their desire and purchasing for pork here for the last couple of months. So I bet that will all change again in the back half of 2026. We'll see what those things look like as well.
All right. Well, we're coming up at the bottom of the hour here, so it's time to take a break. When we come back again, we'll have our still haven't had an answer for the weather, correct answer for the weather trivia. We'll hit that up again, and Bridgette's got some more ag topics. All of that when we come back.
you're curious if you should be doing more about your cybersecurity, especially when you hear things like attacks on agribusinesses. Fairlife Dairy was the most recent to be held by ransomware from attackers, and you don't want that happening on your farm or ranch. Now is your time to do a fence check assessment with Tech Support Farm. In fact, if you want to have that conversation in person, they will be at the Ag PhD Field Day next Thursday in Baltic, South Dakota. So stop and see Chris on the main stage or visit with him at his booth. Sounds to me like Kevin is going to make another attempt at weather trivia.
Boy, Kevin really wants this, doesn't he? Kevin, let's give her another shot, man. What do you got?
That's what happens when you're retired and you listen to the show. Anyway,
That's okay.
We're going by days. 21 days below normal since June 1st.
You got it. Yep. You got that spot on. Yeah, he did his research. Yeah, so roughly we're looking at about 60-40, 60% above normal. To break it down, we've seen June was June was actually a couple days cooler than normal, 16 to 14, but July has been the total opposite, 16 above and 5 below. So it's
Dean.
Yeah, this month has been a much different, and this month is going to end the same way. We're gonna wind up with July being a very hot month, for sure.
Dean.
Yeah.
Wait till you get the pictures from Bridgette.
Pictures of?
Oh, about your pickles?
Yeah, show him. He ain't getting any. That was too tough of a question. I'm just joking.
Well,
Hey, thanks, guys. It's awesome. Thanks for the show.
Thanks, Kev. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, bye.
Oh man, so I'm guessing he's got his own. He's growing his own pickles, huh, Bridgette?
I've got cucumber plants that are going on. Kevin's in the process of making refrigerator pickles.
All
He's
right.
ahead of me there. I've only been doing dill pickles right now. I haven't moved into the refrigerator ones at this point.
Good deal.
So we'll get there. Yeah. As you think about what's happening in our rural communities, healthcare is vitally important to so many small towns. But there is a crisis happening. In the past 2 decades, close to 200 rural hospitals have closed, 44 since 2020 alone. Hundreds more are cutting needed services like maternity care, chemotherapy treatments, and more. And really, about 50% are losing money on their day-to-day operations that put them at risk of closure. There are many areas in rural America that are designated as areas that lack sufficient healthcare providers. Now, in 2025, the federal government launched a 5-year plan, $50 billion, the Rural Health Transformation Program, and it's to help modernize rural health care in all 50 states. The money is needed, and there are still some barriers that folks are having to get over. The uphill battle, though, is that the law will hit rural hospitals hard. So federal spending cuts in Medicaid will cause about $1 trillion in loss over 10 years, and that's coming from the Congressional Budget Office. This 2025 law is also expected to increase the number of uninsured Americans up to 10 million by the year 2034. Many times, farmers, small business owners fall into that particular category. Now, the Rural Health Transformation Program is a way to mitigate those effects, but $50 billion does not cover the financial losses that are happening in rural healthcare systems. And the money is supposed to be equally distributed amongst 50 states, regardless of size or population, with another $25 billion awarded to states for projects related to upgrading technology, chronic disease programs, etc. And the states are approving on a prioritized technology. So investments in electronic health records is a first step. One thing that does stand out is when you have some of these rural providers, the really small rural towns are having to compete in their states to get money from the slightly larger. So let's say you're the Ashley Medical Center in Ashley, North Dakota, and you have to compete with the Jamestown Medical Center, which is considered a much larger hospital, and you're competing for the same dollar and the same resources, making it a bit more difficult for those rural hospitals to continue to provide care in the manner in which they should and do. And it's vital. States like North Dakota, Montana, there's some pretty large geographies. When you have an emergency, getting to those hospitals for critical care can sometimes take you 30 to 60 minutes, and that's time that not every injury or health concern can give you. Whenever you buy milk, fresh produce, perishable items, there's a sell-by date. but it means different things to different people. And in fact, there's a new law playing out in California that is supposed to help reduce food waste and make this all a little bit clearer. This new law bans the use of sell-by labels on food packaging. And so experts are saying it's supposed to act as a guide for retailers as to how long to display a product, but it's not an indicator of whether or not it's safe to consume. Word's still out on lettuce, but that's a side note joke for everybody who understands it. Now, manufacturers selling food in California must use two standardized labels: a best if used by, that's peak quality, and then a used by date, and that's for product safety. So now manufacturers have to choose if they're going to use one label or the other to clarify for the consumer. But education is going to matter because most folks aren't going to know which one of those really affects them, if it's peak quality or if it's product safety. California is the first state in the U.S. to standardize these food labels with this new law, and it is being looked at as probably the plan going forward to try to bring standardization across the entire United States. We'll see how, if, and when it actually gets there, but it's usually never quite as easy as the first explanation. I would venture a guess that this will take quite some time for everybody to catch on to what it really means and what it does. So many of you are enjoying baseball, even at the major league level. And John Deere has been announced as the presenting sponsor of this year's Major League Baseball Field of Dreams game between the Minnesota Twins and the Philadelphia Phillies on August 13th. This is going to bring baseball to one of the most meaningful celebrations in farming communities that you can imagine. This game celebrates the connection between baseball, ag, and rural areas. In collaboration, John Deere is going to help co-host a volunteer meal packing event for employees, dealers, and customers of John Deere's. They're going to pack about 260,000 meals for families across Iowa for the Riverbend Food Bank. Also, there is a commitment that extends even further through the Big Hits, Bigger Impact. It's a campaign that donates 1 million meals to Feeding America through the All-Star Week and continues with the Field of Dreams game. So, something to keep in mind if you happen to be watching the Twins when it comes to the Field of Dreams game experience. John Deere is going to be a bigger part of that this year.
Have you been down there, Bridgette, to Field of Dreams? Have you seen that?
I have not.
It's pretty.
Again,
it is pretty cool. It really is.
My athleticism is related to cow on ice, so sports things kind of go right past me.
Okay.
But it's a field. It's a cornfield. It'd probably be great.
It is. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yes.
It is an iconic. Coming from the movie and just being able to see it, and it is pretty cool. It really is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
As we talked earlier about a methane tractor coming from New Holland that's being test run in Nebraska in a couple of different locations. We should know that the first container ship to run on Brazilian-made ethanol set sail recently from the port of Santos. This is an unprecedented test for their biofuel industry, and it marks a key step towards cutting emissions in maritime transportation. The ship was adapted to run on methanol, ethanol, conventional fossil bunker fuels. It's bound for Asia. It's going to stop in Sri Lanka, Singapore, and get to its final destination in China. This voyage comes as they are preparing to enforce a global net zero framework for ocean-going vessels. And we'll see if the directive is achieved. But the directive given in April 2025 had some formal adoption that was pushed back to December of this year after pressure from other countries outside of Brazil. So interesting to note that is all going on. There's often a lot of times that we've said renewable fuels aren't going to happen. More and more we're seeing little inroads being made. I think it's being found that it's a way to use up some of the production of corn that we have. We really can't eat our way through all the bushels that we produce globally, but it does help us also to not only burn through those, maybe find some efficiencies, because we produce a lot of corn. And one of the things I heard at the Bell Bank Ag Views Live on Monday was that with all the corn that we do produce, we have to look to fuels to use up some of our inventory, if you will. One of the hard things to that is, as we see an increase in electric vehicles and fuel efficiencies improving for mileage in carbureted, or I shouldn't say carbureted, but in gas-powered vehicles, we'll see less need for overall fossil fuels, ethanol, and so much more. So we're going to see what that blend looks like going down the road. Maybe airplanes and ships are a place that we're going to see a lot more use for ethanol demand. All right, when we return, more discussion of the weather and a continuation of all the things going on in agriculture. Stay with us here on Weather and Ag in Focus.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. 1:50 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside in the mid-70s. We're on our way up into the low 80s today. Today probably the pick day of the week. Yesterday was pretty darn nice too, though. So, but today low 80s, a little bit of a breeze, not much out of the west-southwest, 5 to 15. And then tonight, not as cool. We'll drop off into the upper 40. Or I'm sorry, we were in the upper 40s this morning. Tomorrow morning we'll be right around the upper 50s to near 60. And then we start to heat things up. Upper 80s on Thursday, right around 90 on Friday. There is a chance for some storms Friday night, overnight, as that hot air dome out to the west moves eastward and could trigger off a few storms along that heat dome. And then we're in the upper 90s over the weekend, and I see a lot of 90s in the forecast most of next week. In fact, we might have a day or so we dip into the 80s, but I think overall we're in the 90s and even hotter weather. I was just taking a look at our latest European model run that just came out, and that first week in August looks HOT hot. So this is here for a while. We're looking for at least a 2-week stretch of temperatures well above normal, and unfortunately, very few chances for rain. We're not looking at anything organized, so I wish I had better news, but we're getting some indications that first week in August, maybe the 3rd or 4th, we might have a more organized system try to move through here with a little bit more widespread rain, but again, that's so far off. I wouldn't put much credence in that.
We're going to watch and see if it actually gets itself organized, because no one would be disappointed if it did at this point. But I do think not just the city of Horace made mention about water conservation. That's a great idea. Let's face it. At this point, your lawn's going to go dormant. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to mow. So there's no need to be watering the lawn. I get the fact that we need to keep some gardens going. I myself am one of those people. Until I figure out how to blast myself a well in the backyard, I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of watering. I understand wanting to keep the flowers watered, etc. And hopefully, if you are buying a pool, you figured out a good way to fill it. Sometimes that's the local fire department can be helpful on that deal if you need a truck and need it fast. So other things that can happen because you need them fast. Well, Sabato, I think is how they call it. They're a leader in autonomy. They will retrofit tractors so that they can be autonomous, which means they can feed themselves down the field. They have paired up with Verdant Robotics. They've developed the Sharpshooter Precision Application System. So what you now have is a tractor that can drive itself with the Sharpshooter system to apply chemistry. The tractor is literally pulling the Verdant Robotics Sharpshooter. The way it works is the Sharpshooter has cameras, much like a See and Spray on a John Deere sprayer, and it's working very quickly to target and apply specifically what's needed to control that particular weed problem in the field. And so why would you be doing this? Perhaps you're short with manpower, right? You need someone to be in the sprayer. The retrofit kit appears to be fairly economical versus buying something that's new and autonomous. And a lot of times the self-propelled sprayers aren't quite there yet. They certainly have the camera technology on them, but they might not be there when it comes to the autonomy yet. But it's getting better. And having somebody outside the cab not only gives you that labor reduction, there's a savings that happens when you're doing these very strategic targeted spray applications. So you're not having to broadcast, you're only targeting that particular weed problem. Now, the makers here, Verdant and Sabato, are saying that it gives you 24/7 productivity. Personally speaking, if it's my operation, I don't think I'm going to sleep at night if I know that that operation is happening 15 miles away in a different field. I'm probably going to want it happening during the day across the road from where I'm working so I can see and understand if a problem happens, etc. If you had to reload the machine, you'd be getting out of bed anyway, so you might as well just operate this during the day and giving you a little bit of freedom with your labor opportunity at that point in time. But I will say that Sabato has been proven as a technology to retrofit farm equipment, and they've done very well. They've had good success in commercial operations. So they're probably worth giving a look to if that's something that you want to be doing down the road on your farm. We're 4 years into what's been happening with Ukraine and Russia, and Ukraine has lost about a third of its capacity to export grain through the Black Sea ports, and that's due to intensifying Russian missile and drone attacks. And more than grains, it's also vegetable oils that are one of Ukraine's biggest source of foreign currency earnings, and it's been probably about 90% in the past of their product that was shipped out through 3 ports in the southern Odessa region. But there was a deal that was meant to allow both countries to ship grain through the Black Sea. And if that continues to happen, Odessa's handled about 6 million metric tons of cargo a month. Both Moscow and Kiev are stepping up attacks on some of these key revenue sources, and Ukrainian forces have been hitting Russian energy targets. So in retaliation, Ukraine is being hit in their agricultural markets and their seaports. India opened up their monsoon season with the 5th driest June on record. Their rainfall was almost 40% below normal levels, and then there was a sudden deluge earlier this month when about a month's worth of precipitation was dumped on cities like Mumbai in a single week. Since then, the weather has stalled into another break, with national rainfall about 24% lower than usual for this time of the year. Roughly half the country's farmland is still dependent on rainfall for irrigation, and swings between the dry and violent downpours are disrupting their summer crop seeding. It jeopardizes the rural income and really raises the risk of higher food costs in that country. And that monsoon pause is trapping urban corridors with humidity and driving up the demand for power to try to cool their urban areas. God bless it if they want to be cool in India. Everybody should.
Yeah.
It's hot over there. Goodness sakes. And when they mention urban, the U.S. isn't immune to that. 84% of our population lives in urban areas, and 2 want to stay cool and have better power and without any problems that associates with it. They also would like to avoid monsoons, is my guess. And hopefully we aren't going to see a lot of those in the region anytime soon.
You said 84%, Bridgette?
We should. 84% of the U.S. population is urban. Maybe we do want a monsoon. I have a hard time taking that much rain in one downpour, but the volume of rain would be super helpful. We're a little bit behind. Yeah,
it would be. And if you've ever experienced a monsoon, when living down in Arizona, and boy, I mean, it can cause some problems. It can cause some really, really quick flooding. It comes down like crazy, but they rely on filling up their reservoirs and whatnot in the desert Southwest during monsoon season. So if they have a dry monsoon season, they hurt. So luckily this year they've been okay so far. Yeah.
India's feeling the same way. They can't really fill up their reservoirs to rely on their irrigation, and they have so many small subsistence farmers. It's difficult for those folks when this type of weather pattern sinks in on them because they just can't get out of it fast enough.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today's edition of Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Congrats to Kevin on winning the Darter Plastic Bait Up Cup. But don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.